Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is April 16, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Roscoe Beano. Where in the heck you calling in from, Roscoe?
I'm down here in Nashville, Tennessee.
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Yeah, the best thing probably is connection, but when you're really born, I would think it's like being free and have being around wise people that care for you.
Free and wise people that care for you. That is really good. I like that. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
That's a kind of an interesting thing because I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm kind of a visual person. So there's a lot of visual information that I get, and I don't know if it's because I taught school for 30 years or whatever, but when you run, 20 kids and then you got six classes and they all kind of run through, and then you do that for 30 years, you begin to see how people feel almost immediately,
Yeah.
and you can make observations. So uh, that's kind of where I'm from. I kind of look at you and can tell what how you're feeling. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting because the neuroscientists say sight is our most dominant sense. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but the easy answers are survival and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of it is just because it's there. You experience it, you see it, you feel it. Like when I think of myself growing up and all the things that you lift a rock up, you see a whole kind of universe and zoo under the rock, and it's just this. That's information. Did I seek it out? I turned over another rock, but it's just kind of cool to know it's there.
Yeah. And Roscoe, do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate in us or is it more invented by us?
Oh, well, you can't you can't stop the human race from inventing stuff. But I would say it's a basic kind of thing that, and then it got distorted and it became a power system, and the information just got kind of twisted and useful. So we're just pounded with this information for that has intention, and I didn't say good intention. For the most part, I remember a guy. I do a lot of these Zoom meetings, and this young guy in France. Well, I say a guy. This young she in France said ethical marketing, and I just that just struck me as like a oxymoron. Like what I've never heard of that
Ethical marketing.
ethical marketing.
It's
And
like
I'm sure
jumbo
it's out there.
shrimp.
I'm
Yeah,
sure it's out there.
yeah. Ethical marketing. Do thoughts create emotions?
Boy, of course, wow. Some thoughts just, well, it's that instantaneous. It's not even, I don't know if it makes bubbles up to the thought level, but I mean, if it happens, it's overwhelming for a lot of people. And I've been learning to experience it more and more. And like just one little spark of an idea, and then you can control it, and then you start to think to yourself, why did that just happen? In fact, I was going to write a song like, what the hell happened to me that I turned out like this? How did I get here?
Beautiful. Fill in the blank, Roscoe. I don't know what I think until I.
Well, I was thinking about thinking something, then I decided not to think that. So I don't know if there's a demarcation in thinking. It's just kind of a, it's a ride. Or a lot of people can focus. I've been kind of dyslexic and a little bit, AD all my life, and you know as well as I do that that was before we controlled it. Like some of these
Yeah,
poor kids, and I was lucky. So somehow they just
yeah.
put up with me. Just where are we going? Are we there yet? What time is it? That whole kind of energy. But well, I don't know when I control my thinking. No, I just ride it. It's just a fun thing for me.
I like that. I'm really grateful that we weren't drugged because we were hyperactive. That's just natural for kids to jump around. Don't drug us because we're so. But it's funny because McLuhan says, "I don't know what I think until I say it," and Joan Didion said, "I don't know what I think until I write it." So I like how you flip the whole thing. That's beautiful. That's what this is all about, Roscoe. It's sort of like me and you versus the wording on the question. So we can always shift it and manipulate it and change the verbs and change the questions around.
Well, and the whole if then kind of idea. See, I'm a songwriter, and a lot of songs I don't know where they actually came from, but it'll be kind of it's almost like a trance, or it's kind of like you self hypnosis, and you kind of, and then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, that means something to me. That made me feel so. Then I translate that into words, but I don't see how I'm not. I just that question was eludes me. I guess would be a good way.
It was good. You tackled it fine, and I love self hypnotize. That's really a very intense in my life as how we can trance our own selves out. We don't have to let TV do that, or, you know, we can do that through music or through conversation.
Or YouTube. You can just do it with YouTube.
I do that a lot. I went down the YouTube chat, rabbit hole. Sorry.
Oh,
Um,
baby, it's and it's just improved, over the last couple of
yeah,
years. Uh,
yeah,
so I love YouTube. I used to call it YouTube University, and I
yeah,
swear to God, people that have worked for me, with me, to help me, they can take their phone, look on YouTube, and then rewire a whole building and put in a shower. I mean, they can do anything. I've seen them like use it as a mirror and they'll put it inside so they can see
yeah.
what's on the other side of the wall. It's amazing.
It is amazing. Can humans think without language?
Oh, well, it's just, now we're talking about what's thought to you. Where is that kind of line between experiencing, knowing what you're experiencing, and thought? You know what I'm saying? Like, uh, if like I've got some, I can't even remember the name of this plant, but it's a beautiful green, kind of a mossy plant, sedum, or it's something like that. But it's a Midwestern plant, and I can look at that and experience it, but I mean, where does the thought come in? I mean, I'm joined with it. I could think later and describe it. I think that whole language thing is just to kind of explain to other people what you think, and it's not a very good system, but it's all we've got. Some people are much better at it, you know, than others.
Well,
But
you're this is good, Roscoe, because you're getting my questions really well. Is this is a stupid question, but it sort of follows up with what you were just saying.
sure,
Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
uh, well, we just talked about that a minute ago. I think the feelings, it goes both ways. You can thought can create a feeling, but like I was talking about with those kids, uh, those fellow humans, when I see them, it isn't like I'm an empath or I can see their aura or any. Although sometimes I think I can. You can you you see it and you can feel how they feel, and then you could translate that, and you could tell another teacher to keep, to watch this kid because they're not having a good day. Just be a little sensitive about it. But it's the whole that whole what is thought? What's thought to you, Jerry?
Yeah, it's really good because I'll answer it with one of my favorite quotes by Bridget Bardot. When I make love, I don't think. And it's like, good luck. How can you turn your brain off when you're doing the most sensuous thing your body can do? But indeed, we probably want to get to it's sort of like people who meditate. They go, think about not thinking, you know.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I never got that far, but I really would disagree with you about you. You can think too much when you're in that intimate world. I mean, the thoughts can kind of just screw that whole thing up.
You mean when you're making love, you
Yeah,
can think too much. Yeah.
yeah. Bridget and I don't know if we would have got along.
Well, that's reminds me of a Captain Beefheart line. He said, I had too much to think."
I had too much to think last night.
Yeah.
There you go.
These are two questions from Alan Turing in the 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Yeah, old Alan. uh, have you ever read that book, Escher? What is it?
Yeah,
Escher
I've got it on my shelf. I should read it. I know I should read it.
I've read it 4 times and I still don't understand half of it, but I really like the fables. The writer, I really like the way that guy wrote. The
Yeah,
mathematical part, I just couldn't deal with that. But I mean, the whole AI thing is always amazed me since the first time I noticed it. And
yeah,
we kind of grew up in the Apple IIe days and with the floppy disks and all that stuff. And they used to have a program, and they called it Animals, and it
yeah.
was on a floppy. Have you ever played Animals?
I don't know about it, but tell me, please.
Okay, so you put a floppy disk in, of course, and it brings up this. I mean, it's just amazing the way it used to be, but it would say, ask the viewer to think of an animal, and then the computer would, ask a question. Is it bigger than a bread? It's like a 20 questions thing.
Yeah,
And the 20 questions would go on and on until it said, were you thinking of a fox? And then
yeah,
you type in yes. And as long as you're honest with it, it puts that in a database and it coordinates all the questions with the answer. So the next question you ask it, or the next animal, and it questions you, it puts that in the database. And that's kind of what's going on now, only
yeah.
on billions and billions of pieces of data. But that was developed, back in, when was that? The early 70s, late 60s.
Yeah, that's right. Probably then. So the second Turing question is, can machines think? Yeah, BSP. You guessed that one coming.
A really wonderful friend of mine. I'm writing a song called "How Can You Tell If It's a Bot or Not?"
Yeah, good.
And I'm not sure if your audience is connecting the man we're talking about with AI, but he's the one that came up with this. If 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 it's behind a screen and it can convince you that it's human, then it's conscious. The
Yeah.
whole idea of that. So here I'm kind of rambling on a little bit. What was the question again now?
Please, one thing is feel free to ramble on. That's what this is all about, is just anecdotes and stories and thinking. But the question is, can machines think?
Yeah. And there we're back to thought, we're back to thinking, and this AI. I would like a chatbot that would remember what we talked about the day before.
Yeah.
But and this was the thing I forgot. I took off in a different direction. A really good friend of mine mentioned the other day, because I'm writing that "Bot or Not" song, and they said uh, that, does it think of you and miss you?
Yeah.
And if a machine misses you, then I would say that it's thinking.
Yeah. It's good. Good example. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Happiness or what?
Meaning.
Uh-oh, I think I lose you?
Meaning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
MEANING.
My volume went down.
Yeah.
So I pursue meaning or what?
Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
And another flip on that one would be: would you sacrifice happiness to find meaning? Like
Yeah.
if you turned it around, would you do that? And there's a lot of delayed gratification. There's a lot of immediate gratification, and it's situational. But I and then there's the happiness. So some people are happy when they find meaning, and I'm one of those people. But it doesn't have to have meaning to make me happy. On
Yeah.
the other hand, meaning really can, just like I said, I taught for 30 years, and you can teach, and I taught math. As sterile as that can be, I would not. I refuse to let that happen in my classroom. So we found meaning in a lot of it, and we found meaning in the exchange of. And then we had that goal. We had a test coming up, and we had this, and we had to get ready for high school. We had to do things, but yeah, meaning is a constant search. I wish there's plenty of stuff going on up here right now. Not right now, but that I'm looking for the meaning, and it's a search, and you gather data just like the little robot does, but uh, sometimes it kind of makes sense, and then you test it, and you think okay, and back and forth, but and that can kind of make you happy if you solve a mystery, but I don't know. Happiness is to me is when you kind of tear up. You're you're like overwhelmed
Yeah.
with
Like an
happiness.
epiphany. And it's a never ending search for these epiphanies, and you don't know when they're going to come.
Well, how many this do you keep a how many what interview is this for you?
Well, in this series, it's the 232nd, but I've done about maybe 500 to 1,000 over 40 years.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you look for meaning in each interview?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's rooted in. I like to have fun and be happy. I mean, that's it. It's rooted in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says meaning tends to last. Happiness doesn't always last. So, it's a discussion on what you mean by these words, but in general, I would say I pursue meaning a little more, but of course I want to pursue happiness too. So I mean, these either or questions are really not so much I want you to answer them as they're just prompts to
So,
air some ideas.
well, it brings up discipline. So, how much would you discipline yourself to discover meaning in an
Yeah,
author's book, for instance,
yeah,
as opposed to, and it isn't like go out and get drunk or something. You go out and seek happiness in service to a community or service to
yeah.
uh, somebody.
Well, it's interesting what you're bringing up by the word discipline, because that is one of I worked for George Carlin for a half a year, and we got this flyer in the mail, and it said, I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity. And
Yeah.
that sort of summarizes it. And again, you're psychoanalyzing the wording in my questions, and that's what I want. I love to do this is, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning? Well, it's the word pursue. Like happiness, you want it just to come naturally, and you want meaning to come naturally. So do you like go out there, I'm going to go get meaning now. I'm going to go get happiness. So
Well, it's a trick question in the sense that it's almost like you're making meaning like the bad thing that can't doesn't
it
make you happy, and it's
it's
like
right.
wait a
It,
minute.
that That is it. Well, a woman told me um, about several months ago. She goes, trying to be. It's like I'm not literally trying to trick you, but all questions are a trick in a way. They're just like prompts
Wait a minute, are you
to
talking
to.
about Flash? Are you talking about that interview with Flash?
I did interview Flash, but she didn't say that.
Oh, okay. That was an
Yeah,
amazing interview. I was just captivated by her.
I love that. Flash is a great human being, and I'm lucky because it snowballs. It's like then you might tell me someone that you think will talk with me. So it is. I am pursuing both happiness and meaning through these discussions. So
Yeah, and
onward and
you
upward.
can find happiness in meaning. It's like you understand. Like
Yeah,
understanding can make you happy.
yeah,
Although if you understand that somebody's gonna sneaking up on you, then that's a little different. But maybe there's a little happiness in knowing.
yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we creating it?
That's a really good one because of this consciousness discussion that we've been having, and I'm into it, the AI, and I'm into this stuff, and it struck me as funny. I think I was high or something the other night or day, and I was walking around thinking about consciousness, about my consciousness, and that's the whole key to this consciousness part is the being able to reflect on yourself and what's going on, and it just struck me as as funny that I was thinking about my consciousness. And I'm just going to take a sidestep here on you. So I'm also kind of a sci-fi geek, kind of quantum physics, quantum consciousness. Is this what is this really guy? And I just think to myself, uh, it's it's like the fourth dimension. Everybody, if you think of the three dimensions and then the fourth, everything seems to be very obvious. And if you just take the time to understand it, it's there right in front of you.
Yeah,
So everybody's got the three dimensions. What's the fourth dimension? Oh, that's time and all that stuff. This is the fourth dimension, motion. Okay, so you got the threes and then and while you're looking at the motion, in my mind, you're in the fifth dimension. You're looking at the fourth dimension. You're
yeah,
watching it, and then I just keep trying to back it up and try to figure out who it is somebody watching the person that's watching. So
yeah.
that's kind of, and I know you can't talk to people about that stuff because they just kind of go like, oh really. But I'm retired, so I can do that.
Hey, you can talk to me about it. I love it because this is what reading the book, we read a lot, Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. It's as though you're reading a book because you have to read it out loud with a group of people, and your second self or your fifth dimension pulls back and watches you reading a book and tries to figure out what reading does to you.
Oh,
So
it's
it's really an amazing phenomenon because you described reading Finnegan's Wake when you said when you defined or described what the fifth dimension
it
is.
was to me, right? Well, the that to me that Finnegan's Wake thing, and I'm not a big Finnegan's Wake person. I respect I respect it, but
Yeah,
the amazing reading it out loud to me would just be this exercise in sound because of
it is.
just the way the words are constructed leads you to this kind of almost absurd sound, and then that takes you back to language, and then that takes you back to thinking and the words. Do you think uh, with words, or you think with thoughts, or
That's it. That's can humans think without language? But you know what it is also, Roscoe, that you The best way to describe Finnegan's Wake is listening to Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. And and you go, did he just say that that
Yeah,
girl?
right.
Wait a minute. I think I heard that word.
Bone? What did he say?
What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, I tell these kids down here, I'm on stage down here in Nashville every once in a while. And one of the endings of one of my songs is, and you are in space. And I do that, and everybody gets tickled because they are, and it's like they
Yeah.
hadn't thought about that yet. And these kids will look at me. I say kids, in their 20s, and they'll go, "Oh, that was really a trip that you said space like that." And I look at them, I go, "You didn't believe all that crap they taught you about space and everything, did you?" It's that's just the speed of light and all that stuff. That's just a little game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would think that thought is we thought of the light, so I guess I'll go with thought. What do you think's faster, Jerry?
Roscoe, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. Thought is faster. Yes. Okay, Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rayner responded and said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Okay, well, yeah, that whole master thing and the whole controlled socializing that we go through in this planet and all that stuff. It's gonna the tool is not us. We're gonna dismantle it just if they just leave us alone. And
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, but this propaganda and all, just the misinformation. Can you imagine? You've seen this Chat GPT thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how many? It's going to be 2 or 3 years before all this deep fake stuff and all the chat bots and they're writing songs now. Dire Straits. One of these chat bot things wrote a Dire Straits song and it's good.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah, it's a great song. So pretty soon, I'm going to have a Roscoe Beano just sitting here talking to you and making up and saying things and answering questions, and they'll be all lies. The whole thing is just misinformation. So this is my thought about it. Okay, now what are we going to value? And it's going to be a live performance, and it's going to be something that you trust. Somehow you're going to get a feeling that it's
Yeah.
not contrived and the intent is not negative and to control you.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of how are you going to get that to people because we're so frozen on these screens right now.
Well, we'll get there, Roscoe, because it's called developing critical thinking skills. We
Uh-huh.
don't need a little blue check mark in the corner to say if it's true or not. We just sort of go with our gut or what you use the word trust in the live event. And I mean, some people will be faked out just like people have been faked out since the beginning of time.
Well, yeah, yeah.
So,
One of my songs on this album I'm about to release is it's one of those parenthetical titles, but the title is "Can You Feel Truth?"
yeah, that's
So
good.
it's like, and the problem with that is people can feel lies like the truth. I mean, they can feel
Yeah.
that it's the truth and it's not the truth. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all.
All
That's
right.
the word believe has the word lie in the middle of
Oh,
it. And we're constantly doing what I learned from Louis Buñuel. I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it.
yeah,
So it's forever in flux and changing, but we do have a sense what is true. Humans have this sense, they can get faked out, but they do have a sense that it's the bullshit detector, you know.
And everybody's got one, and as long as you live a life where you are connected and you reach out and you travel, you know, you see other places, you get out of
Yeah.
your comfort zone, and you experience other people, you get a better sense of what's, you know, true. And we all, as even kids growing up, we develop our value system, and we come up with all that, and we know sometimes we don't realize it till afterwards. I remember my one of my problems, Jerry, is the better I feel, like happy, like jovial, the more of an asshole I am. So what happens is
That's
I
good.
just start getting really happy, and then it just all this shit just starts coming out of my mouth, and I'm an asshole. And it was worse when I was a kid because I was lucky enough to be, you know, healthy, and uh, and I remember being mean. I'll say it, and that's an afterthought. I treated people, uh, and I didn't realize what I was doing until I wasn't there and I saw somebody else treat them that way.
Wow.
And I I saw how it affected them. So I
Yeah.
realized, you know, I said that's what I did also.
Yeah.
So you just make your value system, you just keep piecing it together, and hopefully you can tell the truth and you can feel the truth when you're with it. See, right now, here we go. I'm going to take off upon you again. Right now, when you call up and you get this robocall stuff, and it's like, well, do you want to do this? Press one if you're tired of this crap. We're in between that machinery and a chatbot that will actually talk to you and respond.
Yeah.
And you're just going to go back and forth and say, well, I wanted to see, you know, Dr. Sanders today, and oh well, you know, she's not in right now, but let me connect. I mean, it would be like talking to a person,
Yeah.
and that comes out of my brain because when I would go through the bureaucracy of corporations or whatever you want to call them, you would finally find a human being, I used to call them. And once you found that person in that organization, you'd write their name down, and because you wanted, that's who you wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
And anyway, so
No, I constantly I want to talk to a human being, and that's a true human need, and you expressed it well. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
whether I'm going to fall asleep right away. No, I don't. I try not to do that. I mean, if it is a negative thing, I try to, I just block it. I just say I can deal with that tomorrow. You know, put it over there. And if it, and luckily I haven't had any massive tragedy things to think about. So I can get away with it. I can sleep without worrying about anything. But mostly it would be like my car, or it would be something stupid. I worry about my family and I worry about people, but I sleep. I get
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
uh, they're kind of all the same. I mean, it, no, I'm not afraid of ideas
Can you
either.
con thank you. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yeah, which has always amazed me. Like, what's your first memory? And I'll ask you that when I'm done. But the first memory I have that I can recall, you know, it's all up there. But the one I can recall was, I think I was walking with my sisters, and I must have been, I could walk, so I had to be like, you know, 3, 4 years old, and they dumped a can of paint on me because I was just bugging them. I'm telling you, I was a crazy little kid, man. They wished they would have had drugs back then to take care of me, but it was easy to remember because and I'm probably, you know how the human mind just takes that stuff and
Yeah.
twists it around so that you're the good guy.
Yeah.
I probably dumped it on myself, you know, just to show off or some stupid thing like that. But
Wow.
that's I do remember that. I remember the street it was on. And
Wow.
it always amazes me when you ask somebody a question like that and they've got details. You know, it was the day after Christmas and I was over at Aunt Mary's house and we were in the kitchen and she made eggs for breakfast. I mean, they just come up with this whole story. I'm totally amazed when people do that.
Well, is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Oh, you have to ask them. I don't have one. So, what was the earliest thing that you can remember?
I think it was an amusement park ride, but I probably conjure it up from home movies. And I'm not really good with that. In fact, I'm losing my memory now. And it's funny how people approach that, because most people say memory is a blessing, but some people say, well, it can be a curse. So it's how it's again how we juggle it and how we navigate it. I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, are you obviously you're a very intelligent, well educated man. What is and you say you're noticing your mind slipping a little bit now?
Oh yeah, my dad had some dementia when he got to be 90s. I'm in my 70s. I feel it shifting, and I went to the doctor and they gave me the test and said, "No, you're fine." They say if you look at your keys and you say, "What are these for?" then you got
then
something
you're
wrong.
then you're fucked right
If
there.
if you lost your keys, that's normal. So, but there's certain stuff. I have some short-term memory things that just fly by, and it's like I just deal with it the best I can, but
Yeah, but in your before time, were you a person that just could remember everything? Kind of not photographic memory, but I
I
mean,
have I have pretty good recall. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've always
Tell me.
hats off to the people like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's
But talking about memory and stuff, I talked to you earlier and mentioned that I I the second time I had COVID was about 3 months ago,
yeah.
and the second the first time I got it, I didn't notice it, but this last time was just amazing with this brain fog kind of concept. And
Yeah.
when you're an older person and you get this brain fog, you're not sure if it's you're losing it or
Yeah.
it's that your brain is swelling because of the
Yeah.
inflammation. But I've just started coming out of it in the last maybe 4 days, and I'm really not sure what I'm doing. I'm trying to drink a lot of salt kind of electrolyte things, and that's helping uh,
Good.
bring it back. So there you go. Memory is a big deal to me right now too.
Well, Roscoe, tell me someone just briefly, someone within your immediate family and then outside your immediate family who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
uh, outside, inside, huh? Well, let me go inside because that's fresh in my mind. Of course, all my family had tremendous influence. I was the youngest of three, and the craziest part about it for me was my my I had two older sisters, and they were very social. They had a lot of friends or whatever. And in when they were in high school, I was not, of course, and they brought home a band, kind of like the Kingston Trio, but these were like five guys. They had a djembe. They played kind of folk music and a lot of harmony, and they came to my house and played in my living room. And that live music just turned my life into music. And that was before I was writing music, to like meet the girls and all that stuff. It was music is what I wanted to do. I knew from that moment on.
Wow. That's some good big sisters bringing home. They didn't bring home like my big sister brought home Led Zeppelin 2 that changed my life, but your sisters brought live music.
Live,
I'm
yeah.
jealous. Live music's what's that.
It's
Now
nothing.
out outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you.
Yeah, that's a tough one because there's a lot of people. A turning. I'll just go with a turning point. You know, there's a lot of influences, but there was. I had an English teacher. Uh, God damn it, I can't remember his name now. Charles. Can't remember his last name right now because of this. It's not because I'm old. It's because brain fog. But I had been sick. I got sick when I was a freshman in high school, and I got it's a bone disease. I had osteomyelitis of my spine, so I had to have surgeries and blah blah blah. And I missed. I don't know. I didn't come back to my freshman year until maybe January. And by then, everybody in my class had clicked out. Everybody knew, you know, they had their own little cliques and they had the routine down. And I just showed up there after losing like 40 pounds and just laying in a bed for 3 or 4 months. I was a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I got in this English class, and it wasn't a journal. He assigned a paper, and I never was really good at writing and stuff. Anyway, I wrote a story, and I called the story's name was Just a Thought. You know, just a thought. Dot 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 dot. And the story was told from the perspective of a young kid that got sick and was in bed and it wasn't like I consciously wrote it about myself. That's just all I knew, right? So I wrote it, and that English teacher was moved. He read it in front of the class, and there was a couple little twists that I put in there, and he was visibly moved. And I mean, I wasn't. I was looking at him, and he was, to me, he was freaking out a little bit, you know, because I just wrote the story. You know,
Yeah.
I just made it up. I wasn't, you know, there weren't tear stains on the loose leaf paper, but it meant something to him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that kind of exposed me to the power of words
Nice.
and connecting.
It's good. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
I was raised Catholic, and I you know there's all kinds of discussion about that. But the thing I loved about being raised like that was the tradition. And you know everybody makes fun of all those robes and all that stuff, but they used to do the mass in Latin, and
Yeah.
it was so impressive. And then the singing was really impressive because the church had really good acoustics. So
Yeah.
I didn't really care what we were singing, and I wasn't a big one on that mea culpa thing, but it all worked out great. I love the music. I love the singing, the people, the voices, and it was just great. But
Do you pray?
uh, well, that's that old joke. What was the name of that movie? Ruling Class. Have you ever seen
Yes.
that?
I
When he,
love I love the line you're going to quote right
oh
now.
yeah, yeah, right. He goes, well, I used to pray until I used to pray to God until I one day I realized I was praying to myself.
That is a good line to quote. If
Well, it's
God exists, if God exists, Roscoe, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
what the hell kind of question is that, Jerry? If God exists, what could I make up that he could say to me that I'd like him to say?
Yeah.
Maybe just go, you know, give me a thumbs up and say, "Good job, bozo." You know
Yeah,
that kind
good
of stuff.
job, Bozo. That's a great answer. Everybody says Roscoe. Everybody says good job, but no one adds the Bozo part.
Oh,
That's good.
yeah. Well,
We're all Bozo.
he
You know,
watched
we're
the
all
whole
bozos
thing. He
on
knew
this.
we're all
You know the Fireside Theater line. We're all bozos on this bus.
Oh yeah, there's a guy down here in Nashville that's doing he calls it an odyssey, but it reminds me so much of a Firesign Theater. I'm going to
Yeah.
send him. I found an old clip of those guys because you know, gosh, Mudhead, you know the bus. You know, let's go down to the school. I mean, it was just, and now podcasts can be done. All these kids are doing it. It's great stuff. Great stuff.
It is.
But they're rediscovering just audio.
It's
without
amazing.
all the, it's just a different thing. And I've noticed
Well,
it
you
with my songs. I'm sorry,
no,
let
go
me
ahead.
let
Go
me
ahead,
finish
Russ.
this thought. I when I first started releasing this album, uh, I'd make videos for it, so I'd had to learn how to do Logic Pro. So I got the video and the music, and oh, it's great, the visual, the music and all that stuff. And then I finally got burned out on making those things, and I just listened to the song by itself, and it was like better. It was better to just listen to the music and not be distracted
Yeah,
by the fourth dimension.
that's it. It's funny because Phil Proctor, one of the Fireside Theater guys, just had me on his radio show a couple weeks ago, and it's called "Sexy Boomers." If no,
This is fun.
the next question is: do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I have had experiences in my life where I met somebody that I'd never met before, and I had a completely intense reaction to them in terms of, you know, get out of here, go away as fast as you can. And I've only had that happen to me twice, but I would somehow associate that with what you're saying. So I think that some people can become evil, I guess,
Yeah,
uh, and or it can possess them. It's just kind of it's like Sandy Hook for instance. I just can't. Every time I think about so maybe it does exist. Maybe we create it. I don't know.
yeah, it's heavy. I appreciate your communication here, Roscoe. It touches me deeply. Like it's the hidden question really is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up with a few modern thinkers. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK says, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what he meant. I like Alan, but I'm not sure what he means by acknowledge. Uh, should it be like the definition of acknowledge? Like, oh, there you are. You're my enemy. Is that what he's talking about?
It's a great question. I mean, answering a question with a question really is what this series is all about. So I appreciate that. It is how do we suss out what he means by it? But in general, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? What would you say to them?
In my life, I guess, so I would advise people to do it. I would say, get get as close as you can and try to understand and draw a line and say, okay, I really, I'm serious. I don't want to be your enemy. I don't think this is productive. But if push comes to shove, then it's kind of like you say, either leave me alone or something's going to happen. It's
Yeah,
you just can't do it. It just depends on the enemy, to be honest with you. I mean,
yeah.
if you're talking about war, that's a whole different kind of game.
It's like Ram Dass had a great line. He says, I'm having a real hard time loving George Bush. It's like, fill in the blank. I'm having a real hard time loving Putin,
Oh,
or
really?
whoever.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to fill that blank in, huh?
No, no, no. Just yeah. No, we'll go on because we got to get to music here. We're eventually getting there. So I appreciate we just sort of did these background questions. But this is James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
I guess some people they just want to take a break and watch somebody else do it or pretend they're doing it, but uh, we don't have to. But I'm an existentialist. I studied philosophy in college. That's a whole nother story, but I'm into the existential ideas of hugging a tree. And I used to teach my kids. I'd write the word tree with magic. I mean, with one of those liners on an overhead, and I'd say, "What is this?" And they'd go, "It's a tree." And I go, "No, it's not a tree." Then I point out the window. I said, "That's a tree. What's this?" And the whole idea was to teach them about abstraction and how your brain can abstract with language. And basically the last line was, no, this is like colored water on a piece of plastic is what this is.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
That's good. It's a really good thing. It's like the Magritte painting. This is not a pipe. This is a painting of a pipe.
Yeah, it's just it's pigments that you look at and enjoy. I guess you enjoy looking at it.
Well, Roscoe, let's walk me through. You sort of had this epiphany when your sister brought home this live music group. And you said, "Hey, that was a big tipping point. That's for me." But and then you talked about your high school teacher and writing something and learning the power of words. But where was that tipping point where you said, I want to actually write the lyrics of songs and I want to actually learn how to play guitar? Where's your tipping points in that regard?
Oh, well, that's pretty clear in my mind too. I remember I told you my freshman year, I got osteomyelitis and I was in bed for, I don't know, 3, 4 months.
Yeah,
I had surgeries, all kinds of stuff. And at that point in my life, I could have chosen reading and studying because they didn't have YouTube back then. I
yeah,
could have done that, or I could have pick up a guitar and play a guitar and play
yeah,
music and make frequencies and make sound and stuff like that.
yeah,
So that's when I went to the guitar, and then and let's see now you were older, so this is kind of like when you were a little kid, but I mean I'm older, not you're not older. Uh, but that was back in the Kingston Trio and Peter, Paul, and Mary
yeah,
and Hoot Nanny and it's just all this sing along kind of
yeah,
stuff that was good. I mean,
yes.
I enjoyed expressing myself. So then it was basically easier for me to make up a song than it was to learn somebody else's song. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
No, that makes a lot of sense. And in fact, my babysitter was sort of obsessed with Peter, Paul, and Mary. And that's where I got that obsession. Like you cling on to some music act that you really like and you're dedicated to them. And that's the roots of mine was her dedication to Peter, Paul, and Mary. And yeah, no, I'm a big folkie. I go way back to all that. Folk music is deep in my roots. I appreciate. but I'm curious about your actual songwriting because a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. So, what role does intention play in your creative process when you're
Yeah.
writing a song?
Uh, I think as I developed as a musician, and well, no, I take that back. I'm not a musician, but I can play pretty well, but I'm not a musician. But as I developed the songwriting kind of thing, you know, it that the Kingston Trio and the Peter Paul and Mary and all that stuff. But then FM radio appeared, and then people like Paul Simon and people like James Taylor and but forget Taylor. There was something there, but like Paul Simon, just that kind of the way he put words, intelligent words, in a
Yeah.
song, and it was even more like you were talking about intention. I'm not sure what his intention is on some of that because the music and the words were kind of sometimes opposed uh, in terms of like the music was light and the words were heavy and things like that. But in my development, I started kind of modeling after him and the Beatles and stuff. And it was more like I got meaning out of songs that it wasn't clear what the intention was. It wasn't
Yeah.
cut and dried.
Yeah.
I got some wiggle room in what was going on there, and I could apply it to my life. It was general enough and clever enough that it worked for a little kid in the Midwest also.
Dude, I love your choice of words that implied ambiguity, but the words you used, wiggle room. That is, McLuhan has a great line. He goes, the gap is where the action is. The wiggle room is where the action is.
Well, Joyce had a lot of wiggle room in his words too.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your listener when you're writing your song?
That's a good one. I might have. I'm getting away from the structures a little bit. This next album, after the album that I've done with, is going to be a little bit more free form because I see my sons doing it and I see other people doing it and I enjoy it. But uh, I think I'm kind of my if it passes my sniff test, I'm good with it. And if other people like it, that's really awesome. I mean, it isn't like I want them, I'm begging them to like it or anything, but if they do, it's cool. I remember there's one song on this album that kind of talks about the trans situation in this country and the different types of people that are alive and working. Anyway, it's a song kind of about that, and we were this drummer guy that used to play congas with me. We're on stage, and I looked at him and I said, "We're going to play this song one more time, and if nobody claps, we're never going to do it again, okay?" And so we play the song, and one guy goes. So it made it, like 10 years later, it's on this album. So
That's good. I love your words. The sniff test. I'm going to use that. My sniff test.
be careful how you use it.
Yeah. Well, my friend says the three T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So technique, you learned how to do this. Theory, the structure. How does one acquire taste?
Wow. I talk a lot about musicians and what they play is tasty, and that's what you're talking about. They're not just that they haven't been like overwhelmed with the technical part,
Yeah.
and they're engaged in the song. They're playing with the song.
Yeah.
A dance of harmonies. Only
Yeah.
it's tasty. It's mentally tasty to listen to it.
Really well put. And McLuhan has this line: song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment?
Wow. I want to get this guy I know, Dave Benham, who does a lot of synthesizer samplings,
Yeah.
and I want him to change my voice into an instrument.
Oh, nice.
Uh, so uh, the language part there, and the reason I'm doing that is I saw a woman and I didn't write her name down, and I can't find her, and I've been searching for her for 3 years now. She was a pianist and she performed with an ensemble, but and she did songs, but she did not say a word,
Yeah.
and you understood exactly what she was doing.
Yeah.
And
It's good.
yeah, I want to shoot for that. I really think the sound part. So the language thing, it's just kind of it's another layer of meaning of the song, but the music, the frequencies, it's the whole kind of environment that you enter that I'm
Dude,
after.
you're talking my brain waves. What's more fundamental, Roscoe, music or language?
Uh, fundamental, you know what I mean? Like more people can do it.
Well, there you go again. I don't know what fundamental means.
Nah,
But
you kind of look. If I drag you back to that, what was it? You can't. Did you ask me if you can't think without words, or was it?
yeah, yeah. Can a human think without language? Yeah,
Well, and then can you explain language? Can you explain the written word
yeah,
without sound?
yeah.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
you can yeah, without sound you can't do it. You need written word. Yeah, can you do it without sound? Yeah.
You know,
Well,
sound is, you know, I mean, it all starts to me with sound, and
I got
then
you.
and so languages. Uh, that's a tough one. I wish I wish we had one.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you just said. And so, Copeland says the four elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. How do you navigate those when you're writing a song? Melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. What is there a dominant one that you go for first? Is there one that you juggle off four equally, or how do you navigate those four elements?
I would, in my world, it starts with a rhythm. It starts with with music. A lot of the writers here in Nashville, they've got all that kind of in their utility belt, the musical stuff. And then it's the idea. They're looking for the story, you know, they're looking for the what am I writing this song about before they
Yeah,
even start to write it. And I kind of come at it from the feeling part, like I referred to, like Paul Simon and some of those guys like that. They have there's a certain kind of feel to their music, and I don't think you could come up with it. Let's write a song about Julio down by the schoolyard and then come up with that music. But I would think that he came up with that music and then it just kind of that inspired the words and that communication. So now you say what was the other ones?
melody, harmony. You talked about rhythm, so it'd be melody, harmony, and tone color.
Yeah, I love harmony because, like I said, growing up in the Catholic Church, that Gregorian chant was
Yeah,
just kind of that pentonic scale was just kind of overwhelming for me. I loved it. Uh,
yeah,
but you can harmonize and not have a really melody. But then you know who doesn't love Paul McCartney? He could sell you, you know, the underside of a rock and with the
yeah.
melody. He just puts a melody down there, and I'm not dismissing his lyrics, but
Yeah.
the melodies that he comes up with are just incredible. So in my personal life, I'm trying more and more to focus on melody, but it's like the third thing I kind of pay attention to. I go like, well, where else could I go right here to make this melody better?
Yeah, Roscoe, the funny line about the Brill Building songwriters, they said, what came first, the music or the lyrics? And they said, the phone call.
The phone call. It started with a phone call, Jerry.
Well, Thelonious Monk said that musicians are mathematicians. So it's very interesting that you spent many years being a math teacher. And Thelonious Monk said there are no wrong notes. Any comment?
Well, I could use my son as an example. He's kind of a musician that makes his instruments out of garden hoses and pieces of metal, and he'll weld some stuff together. So in terms of a note there, it isn't like he keeps welding it until it has a note to it. So yeah, I agree with that part. The It doesn't have to be 440, and then I'm a 432 guy, and like, wait a minute, why did we change that in World War II? How did 440 end up in this? So okay, I'm sorry, I tripped out a little bit on you. What?
No, no, you answered it. It's talking about wrong notes, whether they're, Hannah Brooks said it so well too. I said, there are no wrong notes. Any comment? She goes, no, there's wrong notes. It's just how good you cover them up.
Yeah, or you just play them like four times in a row, and all of a sudden you realize it's not that wrong a note. It kind of
It's
fits
not
now.
that
Yeah,
wrong a note anymore.
it
Well,
fits.
another hero of Miles Davis talks about the space between notes. How do you engage silence in dynamics in your music? Not knowing not to overplay or play too many notes or leave some silence.
Well, we're back to the kind of wiggle room. The silence. See, I don't know about your word choice, but when you let like a note sustain itself, and that's all you hear, there isn't any silence, but you get to really hear
Yeah,
that note.
yeah,
And but to answer your question, these guys down here that come to Nashville, ready to be a star and all that stuff, they've got a little nervous energy in the way they perform, and there isn't that kind of tasty exchange with the music. And you're back to that tasty musician. A tasty musician is one that lets them become obvious in the song.
yeah.
I mean, as opposed to just like hammering it out.
Really well put, Roscoe. I'm with you 100%. And in fact, Ruth Draper said the key is to bring the audience up unto the scene with you. It is they who give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. That sounds good. And I've seen your videos of you performing in front of people. How do you do that? Bring the audience up into the scene with you. How does one accomplish that in a live performance?
Uh, what I do is I try to listen to what I'm doing, of course, and if I'm listening to it, at least I know it's audible and it's there and people can hear it too. But I remember years where I would, like kind of nervous energy my way through a sound check, like test, okay, that's good to me, and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to get the sound check right,
Yeah.
and then like building a foundation, you want to do that first. uh, and I also engage the audience. I don't just you know put a ball cap down over my eyes. I talk to them, and I think that helps them understand who I am more, so that when I perform, they're more receptive, I guess. I don't know, or they.
Yeah. No, well done. And Leonard Cohen says the only way you can sell a concert is to put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk? Yeah, that's a good one. What role does risk playing?
They smell the fear. They could smell fear.
But I mean, what? How, talk about risk and courage in your, you know,
All I can think
pursuit.
of is Jerry, and you got to know this, but it's like I talk to people and they say to me, I could never do what you do. And
Yeah,
I think to myself, well, you got to be kidding. You just do it.
yeah,
It isn't like, that's big of a task. You just do it. And
yeah,
I try to teach them, like say, well, just do this, do blah, blah, blah or something. And now look what you just did.
yeah,
But basically, I think some people, for whatever reason that I don't know, uh, cannot comprehend. They think when you get up there and you perform that it's like some act of bravery or something like that. And, uh, like, oh, I could never do that. I'd be so afraid or self conscious or whatever. And I just, I guess it's experience. You just learn. It's kind of like
yeah,
when you walk, first time you walk as a kid into a grocery store or any new environment, it's all just new. Or a new job. There's a good one. You start a new job, that first day on the job, it's just weird. Then you make it through the first week, and then all of a sudden you kind of get your pattern going, and everybody's more relaxed.
yeah. The writer Ben Ratliff says, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players, as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note. Like if me or you hear Miles Davis, we sort of can say, hey, that's Miles. Or we hear, Hank Williams, we can go, oh, that's Hank, you know. So, he actually, Ben called Miles Davis fragile and pointed. He called John Coltrane slightly undercooked and urgent. If a mus if a music writer that you really respect was going to describe the Roscoe Beano
Oh,
sound in a couple words, what two words would you feel they got it?
I,
They
I,
they got who I am.
I used to ask my kids, which at least they've had, they're with me all the time or whatever. I'd say, well, what kind of music would you call this or what? And then they just kind of go, it's just Roscoe Beano music. And it's just for some reason, it you just it's this kind. It's all of it's different, but there must be something about it that it makes it identifiable. I don't know if you could pin me down to one note,
to
but
to to a couple words because your two words are Roscoe Beano.
yeah, that's there it is. I mean, they say that there isn't any. It's not like country. It's not like the blah blah blah. It's just it is what it is.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
uh, I think compromise is a more gentle way to to gain conviction.
I like that.
Compromise is it's a joining. It's a human thing.
Yes, hello. It's like what you started with connection. Um, T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Outing, is that what you just said?
Yeah,
Outing.
like we have these voices in our head, and he's saying poetry gets those voices out of our head. What language, like, are your voices in your head in?
Uh, I don't know, Jerry. That's a tough one. Let me ask you. Give me an example. What are the voices like in your head?
Well, I'll tell you what I get. People will say, oh, they're TV commercials, or my mother complaining, or my favorite answer ever was this woman said, I don't know, but I want to know. I don't know. I don't know what language they're in, but I want to know.
I want to meet that woman, you know.
I want to meet that. I want to meet that. But some people take it literally and they just say English and it's metaphorical. But we
Yeah,
can move on because this is like
sure.
um, something I'm always curious about. Is two of my film heroes. Their mantra is ignore yourself. There's no self expression. And Cecil Taylor, the jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. So is music making, art making more self expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technology, cultures, and environments are dominant?
Well, and if you go back to that culture and the socialization and the upbringing, the way you're raised, and the experiences that you had while you developed, uh, and then you like mask it all with this kind of idea of yourself and what you are to other people, and when you go to the store and all that stuff, then I would say that it's kind of a release of all that stuff that comes out and you don't really consciously do it. It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think you can have intent and purpose when you do it, and you get good at something, so you just do it. Like
Yeah.
like filmmaking. Like you make. Do you still make a lot of films?
I still make films. Yeah, it's the same thing. But the real hidden question, Roscoe, is can art making, music making be egoless?
Uh, it's just I guess from the artist point of view, from my point of view, it is egoless. It's not about
Nice.
me. It's about what what's coming out. You know, it's about the thing that's being developed, what's being created. You know, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Is perception reality?
I don't know, Jerry. You tell me.
Yeah.
I think I think perception has a lot to do with it. But we play the reality game. You know, is it what is reality? You know, that kind of thing. Like I told you, I'm into this quantum physics, and
Yeah.
it's all. This is what I want to do. I want to put you and I in a room facing each other talking, or because I don't think we could capture it here in this
And so, yeah, in
medium
live in person, you mean?
live
Yeah.
in person. And then I want one of those scopes that like the thermal things where you can see the heat coming off of people and all that stuff.
The
I want
aura.
I want one that looks at electromagnetic energy and kind of
Yeah.
shows it because
I like that.
electromagnetic energy it's arcs, it's like
Yeah.
magnetic forces, and I want to see that because I believe that's got a lot to do with the way we communicate.
Oh yeah, that's good, man. You've opened up a whole new way of interviewing for me. I'm gonna seek out someone who can. No, it's a
Oh,
heavy
get
thing.
one of
I
those
like.
scopes, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the aura and I love what you said, electromagnetic era energy that can measure and visualize it. Yeah.
You were talking about our eyes and how that's everybody thinks that's the dominant sense or whatever
Yeah.
because I answered a visual. You know, when you think about what we can actually see
Yeah.
and what's actually there,
There. Yeah.
I mean, then you talk about reality. Don't pull that Jerry Falaka crap on me. There's
Yeah.
what is
That's
reality?
you know what it is. One of my favorites is Lily Tomlin said, "Reality's just a collective hunch."
Yeah, see, that's where I find my reality. Like you talked about George Carlin. I mean, my God, comedians, some of them, not all of
Yeah.
them. The sensationalists, I'm not too keen on them, but the intellectual ones that just
Yeah.
there's a like Lily just saying that
Yeah.
there's a lot of meaning to that.
Like my other favorite Lily is she's a homeless lady pushing a grocery cart down the street, and she says, "You know, you people think I'm weird collecting this stuff. What do you think of the people who actually buy it?"
Yeah. Oh, hey, let's see. What were you? Oh, never mind. I'll think of it in a minute.
Well, here's the next one. Tell me, Ross, you've been writing songs for many years. One major element that's changed and one major element that stayed the same in your songwriting.
Like personal, you're saying, not as an observation of what's going on.
Yeah,
Uh,
however you want. You put it in the context you want. Whatever you want. Yeah,
Sure. Well, you speak from your personal kind of experience, but then again, you kind of look out at it all. The incentives for music, it's like any other thing that people can create that you can that serve people that can't do it. Like an artist or whatever. And it used to be people got paid to do it, and now I call it an AFT. The
yeah.
only the only way musicians can make anything is with an AFT, and that's an actual fucking thing.
That's
That's
good.
the only way that you can make any money today. So
Yeah,
if you see somebody writing and creating and all that, they're doing it because they love it, and they
yeah.
and I've said it 1,000 times. We can't quit. You just can't stop doing it.
It's a compulsion and it's beautiful. It's our lifeblood. To create is our lifeblood.
Yeah.
And that's McLuhan's favorite line is the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can.
Well, there's a lot to be said about doing it the best that you can. But
So
the other thing about what's happening is because you can't make a living at it, what happens is we're losing a lot of really talented people that can't they can't support themselves. So
yeah,
they've got a couple of choices. They can either quit and just do it as a hobby or
yeah,
whatever, or they can work the day job and do it at night and then hope to work that out. And that's kind of what I did. Uh, but we're losing a lot of people because they can't sustain themselves. And I'm talking about young people that are fresh. They see the
yeah.
world through their eyes, and they probably have an edge on me.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. In the folk music world, we say, what's the difference between a folk musician and a pizza? Pizza feeds a family of four.
Yeah, yeah.
So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Uh, well, I don't really think of myself that way, but if I had to like cram me into that question, uh, I would think growing up, I was a very shy person. And part of it, especially through high school and that development part, adolescence and all that, because of the circumstance I was in where I lost the whole freshman year, the whole beginning of a 4 year school.
Yeah,
Um, God knows what the anesthetics did to me. I always questioned that too. But the bottom line is, I was very shy, and as a result of being shy, you're very private. So I think if I took that as what's the word, introspective. I became a
yeah,
little bit more introspective, which I think became a strength of mine writing,
yeah.
uh, because I related what I saw happening around me to the experiences that I had, and I just tried to connect it. That's all. But
That was good. How do you find peace of mind?
uh, 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 15 milligrams of THC.
There you go.
Matter of
What's the
fact,
most? Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I truly believe, Jerry, that everybody should feel normal at least 2 hours a week.
There you go. I like that. That's the roots of a good song right there.
Yeah, there you go.
What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
uh, you women, well, physically, see, you got to. There's hormones in there and whatever, but I mean, if you try not to deal with the hormones, I mean, women are more they're more intelligent.
There you go.
Uh, they don't have to deal with this stuff that we've got in us.
We
They've
go,
got other stuff. Yeah.
yeah, we go, women know, men suppose. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Good job, bozo. No, I wouldn't say that.
Now you did the ruling class line full circle.
Yeah,
That's
and the 12-year-old would go, "Are you God?" And,
that is a great Roscoe. You got another song right there.
oh yeah. Hey, so but I'm going to take it back to on stage down here in Nashville, and this is going over. I mean, people. Anytime somebody responds to me, I remember it. So I'm on stage, and you've got to take a chance when you do that stuff, right? So
Yeah,
I'm on stage, and I'm older than most people down here. So I'll be up there, and I'll say to them with a straight face that I'm from the future. And
good.
there's a little bit of silence because it's almost like they're going, maybe he really is from the future. And I go,
Yeah.
I'm from the future, and then I let that silence hang a little bit, and I say, and you all are fucked. And they all just start. Everybody starts laughing, and so then I go play a little, like not all at once. You understand? It's just going to be one at a time, and the line's over there, and everybody knows it, but we carry on.
Really good. Wyndham Lewis, the main influence on Joyce and McLuhan, said, artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future.
Ooh, I like that.
And that's you're living there, right? I'm from the future. That I'm going to use that line. I'll credit you. That is a good line.
Oh yeah, and people will believe you, especially if they're young, like a millennial. If you say that to somebody that doesn't know you, they will. Because I say it to some of these young writers, I'll come up and I'll say, "Well, do you like keep a record on your phone of some of the feels when you write?" "Oh no, I'll remember that." And I go, "Okay, listen, I'm from the future, and you need to start recording some of those feels, or
That's
you're not going to
great.
remember them." Okay.
I love that line. I'm going to use that. Okay, these are 5 quick Alan Watts questions
Oh, Alan.
just off the top of your head in a few words. Number 1, who started it all?
That's an Alan Watts question?
Yeah, all 5 of these are
Oh, Jesus.
just off the top of your head.
Who, let's see, who started it all? Uh, who started it all? Uh, I don't know. I really don't. But
That's fine.
I want to meet him, though.
I
Or
want to
her.
meet him. That's good. Number 2, are we going to make it?
I think we already did. I mean, so the answer is a resounding you betcha.
Good. 3, where do we put it?
Where do we put it?
Yeah.
uh, put it in a quiet place
Oh, I like that.
where
4,
whenever you need it, you can go look at it.
that's good, Roscoe. 4 is who's cleaning it up?
Yeah. Well, the God love them, whoever they are. No, they're The people that realize what's going on, the people that presented it in the first place.
Number 5, is it serious?
Well, short answers, right? I embrace the absurd. So when you say, "Is it serious?" It's serious. Okay, yes, it's serious.
Couple more and we're out of here. This has sure been fun. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Everybody knows that. Come on, Jerry.
No, this guy from Brazil last week said the answer's blowing in the wind.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. No, 80% say over, but there are people who say under. Can you believe that?
I have no idea. See, I've got it down to a technique where when I'm trying to get some, I just go, and it blows it up a little bit, and then
That's it. If a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
See, I'm trying to, everything I'm thinking of has the word, FU in it. So it's like I'm trying to get past that and be contemporary here. It would say, you should have seen him when he was 5 years old. No, I have no idea what.
That's
I don't
good.
think anybody's going to do that.
Okay, they want to scent the glue and the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Scent the spine glue.
Yeah.
Chili.
Nice. I've never had that. I like chili. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Oh, no, there's a good one, right? That I will never have, or I.
No, it's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
Okay, I'm trying to, since this is one of the last questions, I'm going to try to wrap my head around that again. It is good.
Tell me something that's good that you never had, but you never
want it.
But you never want it.
You never want it. I would imagine, like photographic memory, maybe.
That's a good answer. The answer.
Photographic
memory is a good answer. You know what the 3 answers I get the most? Fame, money, and heroin.
Not necessarily in that order, right?
Yeah. Can you believe that? If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Catch it.
Oh my God, that's a good answer.
I may be slow, but I'm quick.
Catch it. I like that answer. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Ooh, yeah. Well, it's that belief. I've always liked science fiction. I've always believed in the future. I see it unfolding. I think about my granddaughter, my 9-year-old granddaughter, what a world she's moving into. If anything, it's going to be, I guess maybe the AI, and hopefully they won't turn it into a whatever. And all the positive things that you can think of about the future,
yeah,
kind of come true because we've got it. It's just this political bullshit, and that's keeping it from everybody. Somehow they think that they've got to keep everybody in fear, and I'm not sure if you have to.
Yeah. Thornton Wilder said in 1928, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. Roscoe, you laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Now that was a pretty convoluted question, if you ask me. But what's it all about for me? uh, I just remember that Alanis Morissette, like when she was God and what was that Dogma,
Yeah.
and she what's it all about? And she like goes like beep, 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 it's anyway. So I'll tell you the real quick one. So Catholic, right? Catholics have this uh, confession, and you got to go to confession because
Yeah.
you're guilty. You're a bad dog from the get go. So you got
Yeah.
to. So I would go in there, and this is how innocent I used to be, or was, or am. And I'd go in there, and it's like bless me, and like Colbert does on his show. It's like,
Yeah.
I confess, and I'm sorry for my sins, especially. I'd say this is what I would say to the priest. I go, especially for making fun of old people.
Ah!
That was my biggest sin.
I like that. Roscoe, how has songwriting shaped your behavior?
Oh, call it songwriting. That might be the excuse that I use to play music, and make sounds with my voice,
Yeah.
because I mean, I can have my knee can be throbbing or hurting or shoulder pain or whatever, and if I play and sing music, I don't feel
Yeah.
any of that.
You mean it's like a healing force?
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people that use music as a healing force. I mean, professionally.
Totally. I agree. What gives you the most optimism?
Uh, Families, people
Yeah.
that care for each other and do things on a daily. It's like random acts of kindness, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
When you see things like that, it's encouraging. I believe that if we're left alone, we would all be kind of like that if we didn't have to have so much anxiety and fear
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, Roscoe, because, if it's full circle, the first question is, what is the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich says the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question is, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So I think it's great you starting off with the best thing for a human being was connection and wise people that care for you, being with family and random acts of kindness. It really, what you are and how you express yourself really comes through your music. I really find it touching and in playful and important. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me, another person. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you too, Jerry. You're an amazing force. I mean, over 500. It's just it's a blessing. I understand, like the people down here that run open mics.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for 35 years, and they give so many people an opportunity that just like you've just given me and so many other people, that it's just awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Roscoe. Beano, what a great name. May you live forever. And I'm going to hit the broadcast end button, but I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Sure. Hey, thanks, Jerry.
Thank you so much.